So within Al Qaeda, there's a district map that leads to a telepathy bubble within the psyche of consciousness. So if aliens were to technically exist in our culture, what is their homeland? Because they didn't come from Earth, but they came from from outer space. So if they do come from outer space, does this also mean they have ascended or have descended from heaven? So are these angels, in fact? So if an alien is to be a Anglican here, not only do aliens have metropolitan rights, they have subversive rights, which means they subvert the psyche entirely, which means their homeland comes from a place where the universe no longer exists. This is a home star of secrets. So, if a secret home star is to become a universal government, not only must they be born earlier than the rest of the government, by definition, because this is how an alien forms, there would need to be an angelization of the body for them to become a alien being, which means they are no longer part of the Homo species. But in fact, they would be part of the nocturnal species, which means they're still Homo sapient. They're just Homo sapient obsoletus, which means they no longer have a third one, but a government around it. So, if Homo sapien obsoletus is to have a teleporter key back to their home planet, not only do they form something called a New Hampshire. This New Hampshire is an angel breed of thinking for oneself for the being. So if heaven was created before this, not only does the ability for these beings to understand one another through a black hole happen, a black hole must teleport them until wizarding is no longer a sport for angels. So this means there is a secrets agency rather than just a secret homeland. This secret agency is a server for understanding how mechanical processes lead to the birth of the universe, which is a map in itself. So the map of our species would be that there is an apostrophe A and then B plus, which means A happens to be in the lowercase w, and while there is liquid water with it rushing into the peak valley of the W, this would be separated into three parts: the alpha, the omega, and the gamma. So not only does this create a leveling of the W would be a version of keeping numbers separated from the A itself. So A apostrophe B would be the channeling of this liquid, back into its original form, which would be the envelope of Germany, which is the O. So if A apostrophe B plus exists, B plus would be a circular notion for all of these beings to have a Oxford collar on them, which means the Catholic Catechism is actually real. So if this Catholic Catechism is open at all, which means it's not always open, it's only open for some period of time or for some special species, it would need to have a reason for its existence called the doctrine. So if we are docking members of this doctrine, why would Germany be the doctrine itself? This would be because we have an alien form of government, which means the Third Reich doesn't need to be deleted. It can be saved. So this is how humans are no longer aliens, but how the universe is born. The universe is born through homos being angelized as aliens, which means angels would be the harvesting spectacle of an alien breed called the intestine. So if we are to intestine ourselves back into birds, which means we lay eggs again, humans would absorb these eggs and become edibles for themselves, which means aliens are pretty rad once you think about it. They're radicalized on the thought that homos can think about how food is manifested through the E, which is the B plus, rather than A, which is the spectacle of apostrophe, which is an I, which is the universe. And this leads to self-detonation of the void out of heaven. So in the self-definition of void, there is multiple angles in it, which means it no longer exists by itself, but by the government's wishes, which means a god must exist for it, which is the positive B plus referring back into the A. So if to leave this system entirely and understand oneself, not only must we have negativity, we must also have absolute positivity, which means we open the fiber of a coil. And coiling would be an open source form of void because the angles would be so widespread that the source of the void would be heaven itself. So if heaven itself is to open a void, not only does these clans form from the severity of the angles, the multiplicity of the angles has to be in control for the void to be not only spread but harvestable and also silenceable.